Waiting for advanced canine. Boom, there we go.
What's up?
What's good? What's good?
Let me turn off this
Yeah, you're gonna have to we'll put the volume down on this one.
laptop.
Is that better, right? Did you put your volume down on your laptop?
I did, yeah.
Cool, perfect. Awesome. What's up, everybody? Cool, we're up
Good to
at
see your face, Oscar.
Likewise, man. I see your kingdom over there. Show me the kingdom more time, bro. To the kennel.
What's that?
Let's go to the kennel. Let me see the kennel. Woo! We're gonna change Joe's name to Mufasa.
Looking over his kingdom over there.
What's new, man? It's good to see your face.
All
It's
right.
been a while.
Likewise, man. Shoot. Let's start a little bit. You guys want to ask some
questions? Make sure you guys just ask them right here, and we'll pick a couple as we go.
real quick, Joe? We
Joe,
met
we met
7 years ago.
years ago.
What was it?
What was
I think it was like 6 years ago when I moved to Cali.
Yep.
Yeah. I was thinking about that today. Remember we did what was that crazy Malinois you had when I moved here?
Brusco. I had Brusco. Brusco.
Brusco? I had
Brusco?
Brusco with me.
Yeah.
Brusco.
Remember we did
Remember
I had
Brusco?
judo, like a
Yeah.
young judo. We were doing like I think your buddy had a tattoo shop or something. We were doing like building searches or crazy bites inside. You don't remember that?
Man, remember? I don't even remember, bro.
I don't even remember, bro.
Anyway,
Sure it was
we
a
were
tattoo-
having a conversation in
You
the
sure it
parking
was a
lot.
tattoo shop?
I don't know. It was some shop. It was nighttime. We were like in and out.
Got it.
But we got done training and you were in the parking lot and you were like, man, I don't know what the fuck to do. You were working for Northrop Grumman still?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Missiles, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just I was thinking about that and it's so cool to see like how far you've come from that moment where you were like, I don't think I'm ever gonna be able to quit this job
yeah.
and like actually do this as a profession and to see what you've built now, it's awesome, dude. So
Man,
congrats.
Look
to
at
you,
you,
man.
bro.
Man,
Look at you.
Look at you, bro. Look at
So
you.
Joe, we met at a
Joe,
French
we met at a French
showed up,
trial.
had-
He
didn't
showed
even
up,
know
didn't
who he
even know who the dude
right?
was,
But
right?
I
And then,
guess you already
but
known
I
the-
guess you were already
you've been doing it for
known
some
the
time,
French
right?
training circuit.
And I remember Joe was like,
And
"Hey, why
Joe
don't you
was
try
like,
this?
hey, why don't you try
dog,
this?
see
You
if
know,
it
this dog, see if it works.
I
And
think
then
I
I ended up like
over a
splits
dog or
over a dog or something.
Yeah.
And after
And
that,
then
after that,
you were like,
bro,
yo,
we
bro,
got
we gotta link up.
Uh,
And
Sure.
so I ended up
leaving
leaving the
leaving
club
the club for freaking to go train with Joe.
And man, I think that for me at least that was a big step.
You know, leaving, you know, what you were comfortable with to freaking just us doing our thing. But I think that's how we grew, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
It's you know, I think
Bro, I remember we would train like we would have like 3 dogs or 4 dogs, and we would still take like 6 or 7 hours training dogs. You know?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
fun,
that I
man.
think that was pretty awesome.
That was good times in Irwindale.
Yep.
Those are big steps to take, and I think for a lot of people who do sport, I mean, I can speak for like the French ring in my experience. It's kind of frowned upon to like go check out other stuff and spread your wings a bit. Like you get a lot of social pressure for doing stuff like that. I know back in the day when I started, the group that I started with in Florida, when I bought my ticket to France, because I wanted to go see the championship, it was like, well, why are you doing that? Like, aren't you
How old were you when you first went the first time?
to France?
Yeah.
I think I was 18.
Dang, you were a youngster, bro.
Yeah, I was a kid. So I met my buddy Ludovic Turbain at a trial in Boston. He was there with 2 dogs. He was living in Mexico at the time. He's a French guy. And when I watched him compete his dogs, it was him at level 3 and Terry Davis had a dog in level 3 that he bought in France named Marco.
Uh-huh.
I remember watching those dogs and being like, I've never seen anything like that. Like
Right.
that's way above and beyond anything that I've experienced.
Were you already into dogs before that?
Yeah, briefly. I got into it. You know, I went out to a club and put a suit on and I was hooked by it. I would show up without a dog. I didn't have a dog for like the first 2 years.
Got it.
I just like to get in the suit. But yeah, that's when the first time I saw a dog doing like a real French ring 3 routine, and I
Yeah.
was blown away. I was like, that's what I want to experience, you know?
Heck yeah.
That's what got the hook in me.
Then you got U-Boss, right?
Yeah, then I got U-Boss. Yeah.
U-Boss got him to 3.
Yeah.
And and then you work for some other company or
Company or
whatever.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember
Delivering
delivering
dogs
dogs
and
and
stuff,
stuff, right?
Yep. Yeah. I worked for a protection company out of Boston for some years and was training and delivering protection dogs for them, and then broke off and
yeah.
started doing my own
Yep.
stuff.
Man, I still remember being at Northrop, bro, and I think I would spend more time like talking to you like about training and shit than actually building, what I was supposed to be doing. I think
Yeah.
that's when I realized, you know what,
Like,
I'm
you
not
know what?
built for
Really
this.
built for this.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
But
I had to
that's a
freaking
scary leap for anybody to take, you know? Like anytime I see somebody who's that dedicated or that hungry for the craft take that leap, that always makes me feel good, you know? Like
for sure.
it's a scary leap to take. So
yeah, man. I think
I think like you know,
sometimes we get
we
stuck.
get-
I
I
had
mean,
we have
we have insurance, we have a
paycheck,
paycheck that just comes every single week.
and it was for sure
For
scary.
scary. I think obviously Erica was
Like whatever you want to do, like I'm gonna back you up. And as soon as she said that, bro, like the next day I was like, yo, I'm out of here. Yeah, I was like, I'm out of here.
those are the only words you needed to hear.
yeah, bro, for sure.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So it was pretty dope. But I was just watching with Bali that protection video that you
with,
shot
the
for
Playboy
Playboy magazine.
years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And
And,
and I was like, dang, I was like, look at Joe. Like he was driving like his old, remember that Chevy, bro, when you rolled up on your old Chevy truck?
I still
And
have it.
and I was like, like now you have like, the new facility, like the other truck. I'm like, dang, like it's crazy how things change.
change
Not so, in my opinion, not a very long
not a very
time, you know?
time, you know.
And
And
outside
outside of
like
that, like
the training, bro,
training,
like,
bro,
just like
just like
the
the
level
level
of
of training is just like
way higher than what it was.
was
But we were always like wanting to learn. Like, where do you
where
get
do you
this
get
from?
this
Where do you
from?
get
Where
Yeah,
did you
yeah.
see this?
And that's the
Every
hope.
single
The
time.
hope is that every year you do get better, you know?
for sure?
My biggest fear in anything that I do is just becoming stagnant or too comfortable, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime I feel like I got this, like that's when I know I'm fucking up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
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 You got
So
you got any
Got
advice
any
for
advice
like
for,
somebody that
somebody that wants to, they want to
become
become a professional dog trainer?
Uh,
I think like any other craft, you got to just do it. Like get in front of as many dogs as you can, get your hours in. Um, you got to put the work in. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to clean the shit. You got to do the dirty work. You know, like
yeah,
Yeah.
the Instagram lavish seeming lifestyle of a dog trainer. That's all bullshit. You know,
Yeah.
like if you're jumping straight to that, you're missing out on a lot of very valuable educational pieces to this. You know.
Yeah.
Um, Animal husbandry in general is not the easiest work. Like we're living for other living creatures,
right.
and dogs especially are extremely needy animals. Um, so I think you need to commit to the process. You know, it's
Yep.
you got to put your time in basically.
That's it.
So go find a mentor, go find a situation. Make sure you're learning from more than one source. Um, you just be hungry. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Even, Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Cut off for a little bit. Yeah, like I think, yeah, that's definitely one of the things. Like when you try to just make it to the top right away, and you end up like cutting other people without even realizing that you're doing it. I think you cut some people off.
You know what I mean?
And I think
And I
you
think
gotta
you just gotta
be
be
humble and
humble
be like,
I don't know
shit. Like
Like,
even me myself now, I feel like
I feel
I'm
like
taking
sometimes
a
I'm
dog,
thinking
and it's just
it's not working out how I think, and I'm like,
dang,
dang,
I don't know.
shit. And
Every time somebody talks to me, they're like, oh, like you
how
do it, and this, I'm like, yo, just because sometimes you see that
everything's
everything's
flowing good doesn't mean that I don't have these other issues with these dogs that I have to work through.
and I have like really crappy sessions sometimes where I come inside, I'm like, like I gotta go, I gotta figure this one out. So I think definitely to everybody that's
out there training, like we have a lot of dog trainers that are on right now.
I think you guys need to realize like everything is not good all the time, and we got to figure it out, and we got to, you know what I'm saying? So don't think that, yeah. So just make sure you do the work, keep putting in the work. If you
If
get
you get frustrated, don't take it out on the dog. Put them away because I know I've taken it out on the dog. Put them away, bring them back out, and figure out a
Yeah,
to make it better.
patience is the biggest thing. And that's I think it's always been my recurring challenge, right? Like being patient with the animal, being patient with the process. Um, one of the hardest things for me has always been, changing gears from like going out and training judo or a dog like that, and then picking up on a dog that doesn't know anything.
Yo,
Um, and that's the stuff that I think like those struggles that you're talking about I think are mega important for like that's really where the learning happens, right? When everything's flowing good and there's not much learning occurring there. But
right.
when you fall on your face and you go inside and you feel like shit about it, you're like, why did I do that, or why did that go that way? Like those reflections, that's when I've learned the most for sure.
for sure.
Important stuff.
And then, Joe, you remember judo, bro? When we were
We were
working him
working
when
when
he was
he was
younger.
younger, and you were like,
Like
hey, like
thinking
I'm
about
thinking
selling
about
this dog, man. Like I don't think he's gonna turn out,
Uh,
and
I
this
think
and that because his grip. And we stayed like I remember every session you would be like, we're gonna work on his grip. We're gonna work on his grip. And then he was like a year old, and you were like, man, you know what? Let's just work him and see what happens. And all of a
and all
sudden, the
of a
dude
sudden
turns
it
into
turns
a
into a
yeah,
freaking beast.
yeah. It's like you keep picking at that scab, and you're only making that injury worse.
yep.
Uh, but I learned a lot from him, man. Like I hadn't had a dog since U-Boss, and there was probably what like a 10-year gap in
That's
between
crazy.
That's
the two.
crazy.
Because U-Boss, like he died at 14, and then judo came around when I moved to California. Um, yeah, that process was really educational because he changed so much between the time he was a puppy to a year old. Between 1 and 2, he changed a tremendous amount, and then between 2 and 3, he really became a man.
Right.
And that process that was a beautiful thing to be a part of and be able to witness. But yeah, I was gonna sell his ass because I just wasn't convinced. He didn't show to be like a real powerful dog when he was young. He was just very normal.
Yeah.
I remember we did that seminar with my buddy Tony from France,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
and he came and spent a couple days with me. We didn't touch judo, and judo lived in the house with me at the time. I remember Tony looking at him and being like, "That dog doesn't bite, right?"
You said that?
Yeah, because he's just laying there like he looks like a cat on the couch.
Yeah.
And then we start working him, and after a few days of working him, he's like, "Hey, you can't sell this dog. Like, you got to just."
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got better in these 3 days. Like, let's just hang on to him. And
Yeah.
so he convinced me to do it, and that was the best thing that I could have done. Because
For sure.
anybody that knows me, like, those are the same stresses that I have with every dog that I'm raising.
Yeah.
It's like every time you start over, for me at least, it's like learning how to ride a bike again. Um,
Right.
you get a little bit better at learning how to ride that bike quicker and more efficiently and be more proficient at it, but it's always starting over. It's like
Yeah.
constantly winging it is what it is.
For sure.
Hopefully you've picked up enough along the way where that winging that you're doing is a little bit more intelligent and better applied, but it's what it is every time. Anybody who tells you it's easy, I think that's bullshit.
Right.
So
And
And
there are
there are some
right
things,
there
right, that
credit the
discredit
dog.
the dogs.
Like,
We're like, I'd
I'd
rather not even deal with this issue.
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
play some or
or
whatever. But I think it's also different. Like for me,
like
at
for me,
least, when
when
all of a sudden
all
it
of a
became
sudden it
like kind
became
of a
like kind
business,
of a
like
business, like we're in this business,
and
and
we feel
we
bad,
feel bad,
sometimes
sometimes
selling
selling
certain
certain
dogs, but
dogs, but
they're
if
gonna have a
you have
better
a
life
life
somewhere.
somewhere,
Why not?
not
yeah,
Why not give that to
to
somebody?
somebody,
yeah,
And
you know,
so that's another thing we got to look at too. We got to look at certain things that might just put them on the chopping block, at least for us.
yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
so
I
yeah,
think I've raised and sold quite a number of dogs in the last 3 or 4 years, and a lot of them could have been fantastic, competition dogs, but it's part of the process for me too. Like I'm still committed to building as many dogs as I can.
right,
With that you sacrifice a bit too, right? Like maybe you're not giving every dog a fair shake as long as you should, but those dogs that I've placed, and I've sold quite a few to law enforcement and military in the last few years. Those were huge education pieces for me.
right,
Where if I would have just stuck with one, I would have missed out. I think on a lot of experience there. So
right, right.
yeah,
Yep,
I
I
agree, man.
agree,
I
man.
agree
I
with that.
agree with
And
that,
I
and I
think
think
it's
it's
also like
also
I was talking to this IPO, this lady that does IPO, and she was like, she posted that thing, with the whole, with that meme that we saw with all the bricks all over the place, and I forgot what it said, but talking about like people that go to a bunch of different seminars and they're changing what they're doing
they're
all
doing
the
all every single time.
yeah,
And for
And
me,
for
I'm
me,
like,
I'm
yo,
like,
like,
yo, like
yeah, I feel like I took longer to get to a high IPO3
P3
level,
level,
but I wouldn't change my journey for anything because I just feel like I learned so much along the way, that I feel like I could do it. I could
I
do
can
it
do it
now.
more now.
yeah. But you also like if you think about it, Oscar, you were doing French ring, Mondio. You did Mondio ring with a cane corso. Like who the fuck does that?
Yeah,
Like, and you titled him in level one. You were
Yeah,
doing French ring, you were decoying, you were doing helper work. So you can say longer, but I think you were getting more experience in different places.
for sure.
And
Yeah,
everybody's journey is different. You can't discount that. Like
I,
that
right.
process is super important.
yep. No, I agree. I agree, man. So I was gonna ask you, how was it going to France, man, and competing over there?
Oh, that was awesome. It was incredible. It was scary. It was stressful. Um, it was great.
What's the difference like when you're there? Like the
when it comes to sport, you know?
I think it depends on what competition you're going to, but um, I'll give you a little background on why we went. When we were getting ready with judo to compete, I think he hurt his leg. Are you there? I think we
Yeah,
could.
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I
Um,
see.
he hurt his leg when he was, I think, right about to start competing or something like that. Um, I nursed him back to health. We got through his ring twos, and after his ring twos, I became obsessed with the idea of like I got to get better conditioning for ring three.
Right.
I started sticking him on the slap mill. I started doing shit that just wasn't careful,
Got
and
Got it.
he hurt his leg badly after that. So I didn't get to compete him in level three. I basically said he's done, like that's over. Moving on, right? Um, I think he got like 8 months or 9 months off, and my buddy Tony from France started asking me if, hey, would you be interested in talking to a buddy of mine? He's everybody in France that sees modern dog training, they call it Napopo. No matter what, if they
Yeah.
see rewards, clickers, all of a sudden, automatically, it's Napopo. So he said he wants to learn more about Napopo. Would you be interested in talking to him? And I was like, if he's a friend of yours, I'll talk to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my friend Jimmy Cazales. He's the one that introduced us. So he put me in touch with this guy named Fabrice Pouzance. Um, and the guy started asking questions, and I was like, all right, these are really good questions that will really get my mind going, right? So we
Yeah.
kept communicating, and like the communication started ramping up to the point where like now he's got me up at night thinking about my own training. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Right.
sitting there
Right.
like damn, how has this guy from France even figured that stuff out? Like they're not even exposed to that.
Right.
So
Right.
there was a bit of a language barrier. I said, you know what? Rather than me talk about this, let me just show you with judo. Like I'll show you how I would have handled that situation or how
Right.
I would train
Right.
that stuff. And I was making videos, sending them over to the guy. I was really enjoying the exchange, and accidentally judo started getting strong again and started getting back in shape.
Nice.
So after a few months of this, I'm looking at judo like, damn, he can actually he can do a full routine now. Like his leg is strong.
Yeah.
That's a 40,
That's a 45,
minute
that's a 45-minute routine. For those that don't know,
Yeah,
that's out there.
it's pretty brutal, man. So and we'll get to like the differences between the U.S. and France, but um, I started becoming a bit motivated to like, all right, let's see what we can do here. Like, I'd love to go compete this dog in level three, so I started preparing them, and my experience at that level, the top level of French ring, is limited, right? I've had U-Boss who got there, and I was building judo to get there, and having somebody like Fabrice, just his insight was really special to me because the guy has a ton of experience over there and a lot of success.
Right.
We were communicating for 8 or 9 months before I decided to go to France. And a week before I was going to France, I showed his dog to a buddy of mine on YouTube, like his dog Izawak.
Yeah.
And
Beast.
yeah,
Of-
like a really cool dog. And I didn't realize, like, I'm watching the video, and at the end of the video, it says champion of France. And I'm like, wait a minute, that dude won the championship? I didn't even know that.
That's crazy.
We've been talking for like eight
Wait.
months. So I hit him up on Messenger, and I'm like, hey man, you're champion of France, like you won the championship, and he's dying laughing. He's like, you didn't know that? Like, why am I giving
Yeah.
you training advice? Like we should, like, this should be completely the other way around.
Right.
And
Right.
that was a friendship that sparked from there. So he really motivated me. I told myself, if judo ever gets healthy again, I'm doing this in France. I'm not going to do it in the US. I want to go feel what it's like at that level.
Right.
And
Right.
there's huge differences. I mean, first of all, the schedule. Like you've got to compete 10 times a year if you want to go compete at the championship.
Right.
That alone, for a 45-minute routine with dogs in that level of drive, to keep the control, the precision, the amount of pressure they're getting from the decoys, all of that stuff combined it's tough, man. It's a really tough game over there.
Right.
And in that process, like I learned a lot. It was really cool seeing how to prepare those dogs for that level of competition in France. But yeah, judo didn't hold up. Like he broke.
Yeah.
He broke through
But,
that
but
process.
you did get one
down
leg,
there, though, right? And
and
In France.
yo, can you see me? Give me 1 second.
Hey, I lost you.
Yo.
There.
Yo, can you see me? There you go.
Hey.
Can you see me?
There you go. Yeah.
All right. You did get one leg down there, right?
though, right?
In France, we
One leg of his
competed.
three?
I think we competed 4 or 5 times in France.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's what I mean.
and
Yeah.
like for those that
Sure,
obviously a lot of you guys
don't know
French
about,
training
you
and
know,
all that, but
but
like ever since I started, when I was into
French, like
decoys, for me, like the obedience was like the worst thing you could see. It's like watching, you know what I mean? It's like
Terrible.
for people, it's like for people watching track almost. It's like watching grass grow. Um, and I feel like I remember when you posted the first video, I was like, dang, like that's how it needs to be, like because the level of obedience that you were doing is way different than what we were seeing normally, and that's probably why dude reached out too. He was like, dang, like he might be doing something different.
Yeah.
So even though he's a champion, that dude's still like, yo, I still got something to learn from
Well, and
this.
that's the message, right? Like, doesn't matter how much success you've had, if you if you're willing to be like, cool, I'm just going to keep to this one system that got me here. I think you're dead at that point, right? And that's exactly what that guy said. He said, I did it that way. I don't want to do it that way again. I know there's got to be a better way to build education and understanding in dogs.
Right.
And the video you saw of judo competing over there, I think that video made a lot of waves in Europe and especially in France because in France they hold on to their traditions. They hold them very closely, and they'll combat anything that like heads up healing, right? Like this is an issue that you hear about a lot. And I think mostly it's because they don't know how to achieve it, right?
Right.
But now you're starting to see that change. I think that younger people that are getting into the sports, they want smart dog training. They don't want old traditional, hard training that's senseless. And I like to see that evolution anywhere. But that's all an accumulation of my journey, right? Like I've learned from so many people, and I've had so many great teachers, and I've been the guy that's harassing people, like, hey, how'd you do that? How'd you do that? I want to learn that. And judo was like the accumulation of all that stuff put together at that time. And I'm sure if I'm building another dog now, it's going to be a different result because I've learned more since I started judo. And that's what it's got to be. It's got to be a constantly evolving, changing thing. People who've worked with me have said like, man, you keep changing shit, and I'm like, thank God. Like, I don't want to stay in that same zone. It's gonna keep changing, right? Every dog teaches you new stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like you probably have it down a little better as far as like the system that you're using goes. I grab a dog sometimes and I'm still like, how am I gonna start this? And I just start playing with him. You know what I mean? See, obviously, there's key things that you want in the beginning, like the desire to work that you want to build on. But
right.
I'm always like my healing. The way I teach my healing, I changed it like 5 times. I always go back to like luring, touching my hand, or whatever. I don't really have it down. I'm still playing with everything.
Are you talking about with your personal pups that you're
Yeah,
raising?
yeah. With my personal pups. Yeah, like with our pet dogs, I feel like we already have like a system that we always do. Like me, Christian and I are pretty in sync when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But like my own dogs, because I'm always trying to like figure out how to do it right. Like I worked with Kelly, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to add some of that to it. I'll see something that you do, and I'm like, oh, maybe I need to try some of that, see if I can figure that out. Or for anybody, So, anyways,
there's a lot
but
of good info out there right now, man. Like people like Forrest, like there's just so many talented trainers doing cool stuff right now. I think it's a really cool time in dog training. At the same time, there's a lot of Instagram and internet experts and gurus that don't even know which end of the dog to put the leash on. So you got to be careful. The internet's kind of a double-edged sword in that way. Like you have to. I always say like the proof's in the pudding. Like what has this person actually done? And that's
right.
Clients are shopping around or from out of state. How do I look for a good dog trainer? I say let's look at their dogs. Like watch their training, watch a few of their sessions. If they're not open to showing you that, then walk away and watch them with the client dogs that they're building. And if they're not willing to show you that, then you should walk away. And it's the same for us personally, man. Like there's certain trainers that are specialists at certain things, right? And maybe if you're working on fixing your tracking, you're going to go to a certain person for that.
For sure.
If you're going to work on your healing, you're going to go to someone else for that. And rarely, but we do get it. We get people who are kind of all encompassing and talented at all those things, and that's a really special trainer there. But yeah, it's cool, man. I love this stuff. It's so invigorating. The best moment, and you brought it up earlier, is when you grab a dog and like you really feel like you don't know shit. Like I think that's the best moment in dog training. It's for a while, and maybe it doesn't happen as often now, but for sure when that happens, I feel great. I feel like the student. I feel like I feel reinvigorated to go learn again. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
No.
Yeah, like my pet dogs or whatever. Like I'll be working a dog, and I'm like, man, I
Yeah.
got like this dog that's super skittish, and I took him. He's
My pet dog that's super skittish, and I took him.
there.
He's wait up. You see me there?
Yo,
Yeah.
all right, cool. So I got
All right,
this
cool.
dog that was super
This
skittish,
dog
bro,
that
and
was
I was like going back.
and
I,
I
I
was
was
like
like,
going
man,
back.
how am I
I was
gonna
like,
figure
man,
this
like how am I
out?
gonna figure
It
this
really
one out?
felt like
I
I was
really
a
felt
con,
like I was like
con man,
a
bro. I was like,
I
you
was like,
can't. What's
What's
up,
up,
man?
dude? What's going on?
Oh,
Say hi to
oh,
Oscar.
what's up, buddy?
Say hi, Oscar.
They had it. Hi,
hi
Miriam.
Miriam. She's over there.
What's up, Boogies?
What's up,
What's
buddy?
up, buddy? I
Advice
need
on a toddler and a
her and
Malinois pup living in the same
living in
household. Right there, Joe. Right as you brought
He
that
brought that
boy
Get a
out.
boy
trainer.
out.
Get a trainer ASAP. Get a
Sure.
For
trainer
sure.
who has kids and Malinois.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
See,
Let's
see if
see.
we
Let's
get another
get
one.
another one.
What are you doing?
I saw
I saw
one.
one.
It said, let me see. Wait up. All right. Can you train for IGP and Frenching at the same time? Can you
Ask
both?
Oscar that. Oscar knows that.
You,
Fuck you.
you both do.
you,
Can you do
you do
both
both
well?
well.
Makes sense
Makes
to do
sense to
one
do
or
one
the
or
other.
the other.
Like so
Like
now, after
after
having Wapo, I would
I
for
would
sure do
do
Frenching
French
first
first
or
or
any
any
IGP just
IGP just
because
because I feel like
Frenching takes
French
a toll
takes
on
a
the dog.
toll on the
Another
dog.
thing
Another
is
thing
like
is
if
like
you
if
really
you
want to
really want
play
to play
at the
at
top
the
level of
top
any
any
sport, I would
sport,
say,
say
"Nah, buddy, dedicate yourself to that sport." But for sure, in IPO, IGP, we separate into three different, you know, routines
routines
as to where
to where
Frenching is a
the
45 minute
40-minute
routine. So I
routine
would say
say
Frenching is super hard.
super
I would
would
like the
definitely
both sports are hard
hard
at the
at
highest
the
level,
highest
but
levels,
definitely
but
it
definitely
takes a
it
toll on the
takes a
dog
toll
with
on the dog
Frenching.
Frenching.
Think,
What do you
I
think,
think
Jeff?
also
Jeff?
like the style of dog plays a part in that too. Like
Yeah,
genetically knowing what animal you have in front of you and what he's better suited for is important. And there's certainly dogs that can do both and do both at a high level, but I feel like the dogs that shine most in IGP, uh, the qualities that make them special in that sport could be a detriment in a sport like ring, right? Like if you have a dog who's putting a million miles an hour, 1,000% into every piece of their obedience, they're most likely going to gas quicker than a dog who doesn't do that.
right.
Uh,
Right.
and this I can go on a tangent about genetic conditioning as well. Like I think
Go
one
for
of
it.
the big faults is that he doesn't have a lot of gas in the tank. So I've seen dogs that put even more than judo does into their obedience, and they don't gas as quickly as he does. So
I
knowing
think
all
I
of
lost.
these different components and making sure you have the right animal for the job, I think is an important piece too.
Right. Yep. Yep. No, I agree, and I think that's a big thing with Wapo too.
Excuse me, there, fix the thing a little bit. There we go. The wall,
You see me there?
I
sorry,
lost
Can
you
you see
again,
me?
but
There we go.
yeah,
Yo,
you see me
yeah,
there?
I think I mean that's one of the biggest things with Wapo too, man. I think his
That's one of
breathing issues he has,
the two,
and man,
uh,
I really
you know,
enjoyed actually
issues as and
getting into
man,
Frenching.
I really enjoyed actually
Could
getting
have
into the
lasted.
French field with him. I
Even
just
though he
wish that
failed
he
anyway
would
because he
last.
did a bunch
yeah,
of exercises,
Even
but
though we would have
it was
failed anyway,
fun.
he messed up a bunch of
Excited
the
to get back
exercises.
into it.
But
I
it
ordered
was
my new
so
suit already,
I'm
so
excited to
I'm
get
ready to
back
go.
into it. I
Ready to
ordered
get
my new suit already, so
oh damn,
I'm ready to go.
boy's getting in shape.
Ready to build
I
some ring
like it.
dogs.
Let's
That's
do it.
awesome. That's awesome.
Hey,
I'm
so
getting excited too.
real quick,
Let's
like
do
I've
it.
noticed,
Hey,
what's one
so
of the main things
real
that like
quick,
the first thing you
I've
work
noticed
on when the dog comes
what's
in?
one of the main things that like the
I
first
know
thing
you
you
mentioned
work
to
on
me
when a
that
dog
like the
comes
three
in.
things for
You
the
know,
owner to have before
I
they come into
know you
like
mentioned
the program.
that you
What do you think
wanted
is the
like
most important
the
one
three things
for them to have when
for
the
the
dog
owner
comes in?
into like your program.
Yeah,
What do you think is the most important one
I think well
for them to have when the dog comes in?
for the owners for sure we got the with a lot of the clients that come to us, it's making adjustments and learning how to build a good relationship with their dogs. And more often than not, that has to do a lot with motivation, right? Like having the right motivational pieces in place for the dogs to even want to engage with their owners in a constructive way. So
Right.
we the way we start our training process is we start with an in-person evaluation, and that evaluation lets us kind of get eyes on the dog, see what's going on, see what the relationship looks like. we do those evaluations at our facility because it adds a little layer of distraction, and there's a lot going on here. We've got chickens, goats, and dogs running around everywhere. Um, so that gives us a big insight. You want to take them? Oh my goodness!
Sorry.
Where do you want to go? That's your whistle.
Let's go get it.
Go get your whistle. So that gives us a lot of insight to what's going on. But before people can enter our training program, they need to do a little bit of homework as far as building motivation for food. We end up using food in our program to motivate the dogs. It's the most efficient way to get, I think, to the core. It's the easiest thing for people to wrap their heads around. So we put a lot of emphasis on that, and that evaluation process does a lot too to like for us to weed out people who aren't serious about training.
Got it.
I want to train with people who want to train, and
Got it.
we're not building robots here. We're training dogs, and it's never really done. Like that work is never ending. So any trainer that markets like a fully trained dog, or start to finish
5-minute dog training.
5-minute training.
Yeah,
5-minute dog training.
it's bullshit, man. Like it's a process, and if you're not committed to that process, then you're doing the dog a disservice, and I don't want to be a part of that. So and the clients that we've got coming in now for training, the ones that do these prerequisites that we've put in place, man, it sometimes I'm watching and I'm like, holy shit, that looks really good.
Yeah.
Like
That's awesome.
yeah, it's cool, man. It's made it a lot of fun for sure.
Awesome, man.
That's
Cool.
awesome, man.
Shit.
Cool.
Yeah.
Shit.
You guys out there? You guys have any questions?
out-
See, let me. I know I missed a couple.
You're breaking up again, buddy. What's that?
You guys,
See, I'm trying to look at questions.
let me see. I know I missed a couple.
You guys have some questions?
Yeah, scroll.
Like in the bottom? Yeah, in the bottom.
Trying to look at questions.
Look at this technology.
See.
What's up, Emily?
Here you go.
It's got her puppy here from Chicago right now.
You guys have
saying,
some questions?
Awesome.
Like in the bottom? Yeah, in the bottom. See?
when are we getting
Jesus.
Bella back or not? Gianna stole her. That's her dog now.
Judah looks so beautiful when you do obedience. Yep.
After watching Ivan's DVD,
Awesome.
dogs don't really want to do obedience. They want to play. Yeah, man. Like if you can spend the money and watch Ivan Balabanov stuff,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
game changing stuff for any dog or any dog trainer.
I saw the possession game. That was really good.
That's really good.
All of it.
What's the next one?
What's the next one that you need to look at?
I mean, I really enjoyed his I think it's called Chase and Catch. His out. The thing is, like, you'll watch it, Oscar, and you'll be like, yeah, I knew that, or yeah. But
Yeah.
the way that people like him think about it, like, I feel like in this industry we've got some like a few people who are like the thinkers, right? Like you've got Michael Ellis, and I'm gonna leave some names out because I don't know everybody, but you've got people like Michael, you've got people like Bart, people like Ivan, people like Marco. These are like the big thinkers, I think, when it like they spark a lot of ideas that inspire me, at least.
Right.
Right.
When you hear Ivan or Michael explaining the why behind stuff, that to me is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Right? Like there is a reason behind why things work, and it's important that we know what those moving parts are. And I think right now there's such emphasis on using food in training, and we do it, and I'm not going to ever stop doing that. But
Right.
Ivan's approach is like, we're not going to use food in training, we're going to use play. And
Why is that?
you got to watch his stuff. I'm not going to speak for him, but
Got it.
we'll watch this helicopter go by. But basically, when you watch it and you hear him talk, you're like, holy shit! Like I've been leaving a lot on the table, like
Got it.
potentially. We all
I'm gonna
play
go
with
check
our
it
dogs. Yeah, we all play with our dogs, especially the dogs that like to bite. We all reward our dogs with biting, but really understanding why those things motivate them and why they work. That to me is the most fascinating piece of all this stuff. So
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
Yep.
I agree, man.
I agree, man.
I think like I could speak for you too, but like I think people like us, we would be nothing without like big thinkers like those guys. Like they're thinking on a different level,
100%, man. Yeah, no, I'm still always thinking like that. So I hit you up a while back. last month or something, and I might go to
art
school because
school because
I just feel like
I just feel like
I feel like I just need to get, like you said, like
like you
the
said,
why
the
behind
why behind
everything a little
everything
better,
a little
and I need to
better,
just
and
a
educate
little better.
myself a little better as far as
Yeah,
all that goes. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
and like don't
I
let
don't
it stop there. You
know.
remember when I came back from the
It's
BART seminar, right?
important.
Yeah, I do.
Um, I was kind of like,
Yeah,
I'm never
I do.
luring another dog again. I'm only free shaping from now on.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah,
and that was an important experience for me to have, right? Like to completely immerse myself in what he was talking about.
what are you talking
That gave
about?
me a
what
ton
he
of
was talking about.
yeah, a ton of experience in that realm, and I think that that's what you got to do, man. Like if you're gonna try something, you got to try it all the way. You know,
Yep, yep.
give it a shot.
Who's like who do you think is
Who's
one of
like
the
who's one of
influences,
your biggest influences?
or
If you,
name
I mean,
two?
or name two.
Man, there's so many, but like the first trip I took to France with my buddy Ludovic, um, bro, that was like a dream trip. Like Ludo knew everybody. I got to meet Bart. When I saw Bart, I was a young kid, and like he was walking around with this 4-month-old puppy, and the puppy's like walking between his legs and walking on his right, walking on his left, walking backwards. I was like, this guy's a fucking magician. Like, there's no like how he must be some kind of guru. I didn't understand anything about
Yeah,
dog training. I just knew that that guy was like something else, you know. So um, Bart, I think, is a huge influence. I think both directly and indirectly, Michael Ellis is too. Um,
yeah,
Yeah.
and I say indirectly because I've benefited so much from some of his students like Forrest and my homegirls from Sonoma County Canine, Sarah and
Yeah.
Jess, like like just brainiacs of dog training. I love speaking to all these people about, and I love training with them. Um, so I'm influenced by anybody. I'm. If you see me working with somebody more than once, it's because they're influencing me in a way that's turning me on and making me want to work
Right.
harder and be smarter about my dog training. Um,
awesome.
Awesome.
yeah, and
Cool,
now
man.
Ivan,
Cool,
I've
man.
only worked with Ivan once, and like huge influence, man. Like you can't discount anything. I think right now with technology, Doug, light on. With technology, like we're in such an advantageous place where we can consume all of this information from the comfort of our own homes. People like Sarah Presley, massive
Yeah.
as far as training goes, especially if you're talking about like competition stuff. Um, yeah, there's just so much, you know.
Yeah,
It's
not for
that's
sure.
why I go to
Yeah. No,
like
for sure.
what has this person really done? You know what I mean? Like you got to ask yourself that question.
Right.
If there's a lot of like
Right.
talking into a cell phone and you know not so much training going on, I you know I got questions about that.
Right.
There's so much trainers out there that have quality material and quality advice and quality training that like you know those are the ones that we should all be paying attention to.
Right. No,
Right.
and I think
No,
I mean there's a
I mean,
lot of those. I think
I think of the whole, just
start
look at the phone
talking
and
to it.
start
We
talking
were
to
talking
them.
about this
We were
years
talking
ago,
about this,
like man, like
like,
but
but
that's the new way we're in right now. It's like
now it's
you
like,
know they
they,
you know what I never
you
understand
never understand
the people that
the
talk
people that
about
talk
like
about like
clients,
their
you know what I'm
client,
saying?
you know what I'm saying? And
Talking
they're
to the
like
phone.
talking into the
Oh,
phone.
they're
They're talking
ranting about
about
their
their client.
clients,
Yeah,
talking
bro,
shit.
and I just don't get it. I'm
I
like,
just
bro, like
don't get
calling
it.
you for
Yo,
help,
like
like
they're calling you
help
for
these people
help.
out. You know
Like
what I'm saying? So,
help these people
but
out. You know
like
what
I
I'm
said,
saying?
it's what
So,
stuff.
but
And
like you
again,
said, so
we're
the new
like
stuff.
big
And
into
again,
and we
we're like
love
big into competition,
flashy,
man. Like we love
powerful,
the
precise
flashy,
obedience,
powerful,
and some
precise
people might not be
obedience.
into that.
And
You
some
know what I
people might
mean?
not be into
Some
that. You know what I
like
mean? If you like
they
just
they might not
they
appreciate
they
what
might not
we're into
appreciate what
as much.
we're
I
into as
remember
much.
we work with
Remember
some people
we
and
work with some
kind of like
people and you're kind
we're
of
being
like
hard
we're
on
being kind
them,
of hard on
but
them, but it's
because
not because
trying to be
we're trying to be
assholes to them, but
assholes
it's
to them,
more
but
like
it's
we
more
really
like
care about the final product and like the
product and
dog.
like
You know what I'm
you know
saying?
what I'm
Yeah,
So
saying? So
yeah,
I think
about
I
it
think
for sure. Yeah, I think I've always been a more like less talking, more doing type of guy. Um, if you're doing a lot of talking, my reply is always going to be then just show me, you know.
yeah,
And don't just show me with your Malinois. Like that's important, right? Like show me with your Malinois. Show me the consistency with your Mal, but then
right.
show me with
right.
another dog. Show me with a dog that you just met. Show me again and again, and then I'm
Yep.
convinced. There's people out there that are doing it and they're so willing to put themselves out there. I'll go back to the Sonoma County girls. Like I don't know how many dogs those girls train, but they put their heart and soul into every single one of them, and they're not willing to compromise on quality in the education to get a result quickly. And that's so important. That's taught me a lot too. You know what I mean? People
Yeah,
like Forrest will lock himself on a mountain and figure that like he's gonna sit with that Rubik's cube and he's gonna
Yeah.
mess with it.
Yeah.
Like that's so important to trickle down to all of us. So yeah, it's cool,
Right.
man. There's
Did,
there's some really good stuff out there.
did you find it hard, like, as
Find
you
it
got
hard, like, as
busier
you
with
got
pet
busier
dogs
with
and
the pet
everything,
dogs and
really
everything,
put
to
all that
really
into
put all
every
that in
single dog?
every single dog?
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very
Yeah.
difficult. And like figuring out how to condense that stuff. Like I don't have the luxury of telling people, "Hey, I'm going to keep your dog for 6 months." You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
so figuring out how to take all of the pieces that we're building, like for me, the basis of all this is the dogs that I'm building for myself for competition, and how to take their training and condense it enough to make it work for a program that's going to last 5 to 6 weeks. That's been like the journey I've been on for the last few years, and I feel like we're getting close. Like we've got some really cool results now with pet dogs that we've only had for a short amount of time, and that's motivating to me. Like when I got into doing more pets, I always thought, well, for sure the sport work is going to help me with that. Because I've
Right.
got so much experience with these creating all these crazy complex behaviors and at such a high level with precision. Um, and sure, it did, and it continues to. But I think now training all these pets is making me a much stronger trainer because you're not going to always get that Malinois with a ton of drive
Right.
from a pet client.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're more than likely not going to get that. You're going to get dogs that you put food in their face and they're just like, "Go fuck yourself. I don't want anything to do with that."
Right.
Or like they've just had a history of stuff that we wouldn't have allowed if they were raised in our household. So those challenges I think are making me a much stronger trainer for the working dogs. So it's all kind of come full circle, but
Yep.
it's
Yep.
it's cool. It's a great process. Like I committed a long time ago to getting in front of as many dogs as I could in order to learn as much as I could, and that's what we're doing now. We've got a cool
That's
crew
awesome.
here. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
So, how's
So,
the new
how's the
facility going? I
new
know you're
facility?
making a lot of
Are
changes
you making
over
those
there.
changes over there and everything?
Yeah, it's great,
What,
man.
What are
It's
you?
what are you
What are
at
you?
with it?
a little bit of a water park
Nice.
um,
Nice.
for the summertime, and my next projects will be updating the actual kennel facility, and I want to build a couple of sports fields if I can. We've got some
Nice.
land that
Nice.
needs some grading right now, but my goal with this place is to make it like basically the mecca for high quality dog training, and I don't want that to just be involved with me personally. I want this to be a place where people can land. Like
Yep.
if someone's here from overseas, they know they want to come here and visit here. Maybe they can hold their events here and do their seminars here. I want it to be a constant like
Dope.
revolving door of just quality minds for dog training. So
That's awesome.
we're slowly building to that. We've got some work to do, but
Awesome, man.
Awesome, man.
get there.
I know
You have
you.
any? You don't have a
You don't
competition out right
dog,
now,
right?
right?
I don't know. I keep
When's
selling
the
them,
next?
bro.
Next one's coming.
When's the
I,
next one
The
coming?
next one's coming.
I keep building them, and people are like, "Hey, I want that," and I'm like, "All right, I got bills to pay. I just bought this
Yeah.
place. Like, all
Yeah.
right, I'll sell it." Um, I don't know.
You got it.
We've
You got to.
we've got this project coming up. We just cloned a dog named Pico, this amazing
Nice.
protection
Nice.
dog. So we've got. I think they're going to be born in about a week.
What?
We'll know how
What?
many. Yeah, it's exciting. So I'm probably not going to take another puppy for myself for the next 6 months at least until I see what
Got
that
it.
project is looking like. But we'll see.
You
Yeah,
got
we'll
an
see.
option to get one of those?
Those.
I mean, yeah, sure, but my interest is in building them up and selling them. I was doing a lot of protection dogs before and placing them in homes, and there were so many challenges there with finding the right dogs and finding a dog
Right.
that has the right makeup, the exact makeup that I want for that type of job, and um, it just wasn't. They just don't exist. Like
Right.
they're not around frequently. Sure, you can find dogs with a ton of power and protection, but like, am I going to trust them in a room alone with my kid?
Right.
The answer is usually no to that, right? Or, yeah, wow, this dog is amazing in every social setting, but can you pop off at the drop of a hat?
Right.
Right.
The answer is typically no to that. And to have a dog that its threshold for aggression is low enough to where it can go from 0 to 100, like sleeping, to full on aggression at the drop of a
Right.
dime, but yet be also very stable in the bite work. That's another challenge. That's not an easy dog to find. So with this dog Pico, he has all of those qualities. Um,
Nice.
so the guy who actually purchased him from us He's cloning polo ponies down in Argentina, and they're
That's
having a lot of
crazy.
success with that. So we said let's give it a roll of the dice and see what comes out. You know?
Crazy,
That's crazy.
man.
Yeah.
What's up with Bear? Have you worked Bear yet? Have you worked on the
Bear's
latest?
back here. He was back here this week. He's old as fuck now.
Yeah. How old is he now?
You know,
He's I think he's 9, but he's still a powerhouse. He's still
Yeah.
killing it.
I
Yeah,
took a
I
beating
took a
from that
beating
dog
from
for some
for
time.
some
you
time.
did, man. I think we both did. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
that was good times.
So
So
what
what
do
do
you
you
think
think,
with
like
the whole
the whole
protection dog
protection
thing?
dog?
I mean, it's
Yeah, I mean, it's
big
real
right now,
now,
especially
especially
Instagram and
Instagram,
everything.
everything, and
Everybody's
everybody's
talking
talking
about
about like a
like
sport dog.
do
Uh,
protect. It's not a protection dog or whatever. Like, what do you do with the dogs that you have there?
for
Protection
protection
that you
that
change
you
it like
change
from
from
becoming
becoming
sport
from a
dog to like the real deal or whatever.
So I mean, there's obviously some similarities and there's obviously some stark differences, but um, the biggest thing for me is reliability and functionality in a home. So I want to make sure that dogs can go from a non-expectant state where they don't have all of these triggers that are setting them up for, hey, protection is going to happen now, to automatically at the drop of a dime with one command being able to want to destroy a person. And that takes a very special animal genetically, um, and it also takes some really careful training so you don't muddy those waters. But yeah, dude, like the things that people call protection dogs nowadays is like, yeah, I guess always this has been a thing, right? Like before you would see people say, ah, he's not good enough for sport. I'll just make him a protection dog.
Right.
And to I'm like, what do you mean just make him a protection dog? Like, if anything, that's a way more important job than a sport dog. If this dog is actually going to protect somebody in their
Right.
family.
right.
So it's always been like a skewed, I think, definition. But what you see a lot of this crazy stuff on Instagram, dogs doing stuff that's just I don't know. It's out of this world, man. I don't
Yeah. 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 No, I hear you.
understand it. I don't get it. But um, the real litmus test is not when you're in front of a dog with a suit on, waving a stick around or whipping at him. Um,
Right.
the
Yeah.
real question for me is, will that dog enter a room that it's unfamiliar with, see somebody laying on the ground, and take them out, even though they're just sleeping there?
Yeah.
That's a huge
Yeah.
test for me. Can that dog again go from 0 to 100 without seeing any threat in front of it, without seeing anything in front of it, just because you gave him that command?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of cursors there that, or a lot of points that I want to hit with the dogs that I'm building before I place them in homes.
For sure.
For sure.
What about
What about
hey, what about when we dropped off
off
Forlorn in Florida? Let's tell
Judo's
people that.
people that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's tell people
Tell
that
people that
story.
story.
Remember how
Remember
we
how
woke up
we
and
woke
you
up
had
and
those
you had
calls
those calls?
talking about he had just
all right. So Judo's dad. I think if you look at Oscar's TikTok, he's got and your Instagram, I guess. I've posted it too, but it's a muzzle attack you're doing with Judo's dad.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the dog was a lion. He was an absolute beast.
He was an
Uh,
asshole, bro.
he was an asshole. Yeah. Um. Anyway, long story how we got the dog back from a previous client, but I have a friend in Miami who loves that type of dog. So anytime I've got a dog that's a bit too much, that's probably the guy I'm going to end up calling. So Oscar came with me to deliver that dog, and I think we had some really strict rules in place,
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
like don't I don't know what it was, like don't out the dog, don't correct the dog
Don't
when the
correct
ball
them. Don't correct
Don't
them.
correct them a certain way.
yeah, in a certain way, like especially when his ball's there because he's going to get angry. And of course my buddy, it's the first thing he did. And the next morning we woke up to text messages and phone calls saying, the dog attacked him, and that was a mess. But what
Yeah,
we
we know we thought that he was gonna kill him. We're like, oh man, he's gonna kill him.
yeah,
And we're
his
going back over.
said
Yeah,
his called me and said he's gonna shoot the dog. I was like, don't let him shoot. I'll come get him. No
yeah,
worries.
yeah. And we show up.
We
Yeah,
pull
We
yeah.
up
show
there,
up.
and
We
the
show
dude
up.
is bleeding. I
Go
mean,
ahead.
he's open from here to
Yeah,
here.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's no fucking way I'm shooting this dog. I'm in love with him now.
yeah. He
So
loved it.
like,
I was like,
I was
this dude is
this
crazy.
dude is crazy.
yeah, that was a match made in heaven, and he still has him. He actually just collected him.
Really?
Um, yeah,
Dang.
he's still going, Forlon.
Hey,
Yeah, he's a special.
I had never
I
been
had
to
never been to. It was my first time
I remember going
growing up.
into that house and they were into the whole
They were
what is
into
it
the
called?
whole what is it called?
Santeria.
The
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Bro, that was like, bro, I grew up in a
like
Christian home, bro. I went into one of those rooms and I see the skull in there. I was like, "Yo, what the fuck is going on in here?"
Yeah, it's different, a little different than Christianity, but
It was funny. It was fun though, man. I had a good
that's the
time.
Cuban religion.
See me? Yo, yo,
Yeah, I lost you
yo,
again there.
Yo,
yo.
yo.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that was crazy. That was some
Crazy.
fun times
Fun
though, bro.
time.
We got
So
10
we
minutes. We got 10 minutes left before we get kicked out. Let me see. What part of California are you in? Joe is in Westlake Village. I'm in P Town, Pomona. Let me see.
Bro, when are we gonna train again? What's going on? It's been too long, bro.
bro. I know I gotta get this dog over there, bro.
You know, it's cool though. Like the lack of time is for good reason. You know what I mean? It's not like we're
Yeah.
not wanting to. It's because
Nah,
things
it's
are,
good.
being busy is good, right? So
Yeah. No, it's good.
It's good.
I mean, I
I
wouldn't
would.
wish you
I
still
wish
lived over here close
over
by,
here,
bro.
bro.
You gotta
it's not
take
that.
a not anymore, but when you were in Malibu, that was a mission, bro.
Yeah, Malibu was terrible.
It was
It was,
beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but yeah,
Yeah, it was a long drive.
yeah, for sure.
Let me see.
Let me see.
Look at these fucks.
No, Doug. Come on, Doug. Oh, damn. Cool, man. So what's going on, man? What are you told me about the upgrades in the facility?
Your phone's breaking up again. Let me get off this Wi-Fi real quick.
Yo. Can you see me now? Can you see me now?
I lost you completely, buddy.
Yo. Can you see me now?
Now?
Wait up. Yo, can you see me? Wait up.
Yep, I got you.
Yo.
There you go. Are we back on?
Those beautiful levels alone. This is all
Are
day,
we back
dude.
on?
Yeah, we're
All
back
right,
on.
cool.
Yeah. Black Dog was getting it for sure.
Doug was getting it for sure.
He always gets it.
Damn, bro. So,
Damn, bro.
when's your next seminar, or where are you traveling? If we get over this whole thing.
I don't know, man. I'd like to get back to the East Coast, to be honest. There's a cool group out there. I've been dabbling in some PSA stuff.
Nice.
That's really fun.
I was thinking about that too, bro.
It's fun, man. It's crazy. You gotta really be creative, and you gotta be thinking about what possibly could happen. It's a complicated sport. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to get back to Europe soon and do some training out there, but I'd really like to go take in some seminars, man. I'd like to go take the student role again. You know?
Yeah. Right now, like if you wanted to go train with somebody, who would it be?
Man, so I hate that question because I feel like it's
Yeah.
so singular. But if I could, I would take all the people that I mentioned earlier and a few others and stick them on an island and be like, "You're forced to stay here for 6 months, and we're all gonna figure all this dog training shit out together."
Yeah, that would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
I'd like to get with Marco and Sarah, Marco Cosconsuelo.
Yeah.
I think they're doing some amazing stuff together. I always love hanging out and training with Sarah and Jess from Sonoma County and Michael and everybody up north.
Yeah.
I'd love to get with again, man. It's been a while since I've trained with that guy.
Yeah.
To get with you, Oscar. What's up, bro?
Yeah, bro. We're gonna train together soon, man. Nah, we're gonna do it.
And hopefully, like this place, like turns into what we want sooner than later, and we can start hosting a bunch of that fun stuff here for everybody to enjoy. You know what I mean? I want like the biggest thing. Michael Ellis, we were out having dinner one night, drinking, and like it got to that like serious sentimental moment.
Yeah.
And he goes, if I die tomorrow and the only influence I had on dog training was that people are laying a much smarter and better foundation for their dogs than I did my part.
Oh, that dude changed the game, bro.
Yeah. And like you see like the trickle down effect from a person like that. So to be able to have access to people that are on that level thought wise. And then, on the level that Marco is on performance wise, or my buddy Fabrice and France is on competition wise, like that to me is the pinnacle. And I think that the more we put those things up, we prop those people and type of information up, the more people will get to the truth. And that to me is what dog training is all about. It's an epic quest for the truth. Every
Yeah.
single dog you touch, it's like, yeah, you could go the easy route or you could go the fast route, but what's going to make this animal the most it can be?
Yeah.
And
Yep. Awesome.
and there's people out there that are also committed to that process, and we should be commending those people and looking up to them.
For sure, man. Awesome, bro. Well, man, we're about to get booted out, bro. So we got about a minute, man. Um, really appreciate you doing this, bro. It was a good talk. I'm gonna head out your way.
Good talk. I'm gonna head out your way.
And we're
pretty
gonna make
soon.
something happen,
And
bro.
we're gonna make something happen, bro.
Team up, man.
Maybe we can team up, man.
I'll suit up again. Go do some workshops or something.
Workshops or something.
Get your ass in shape. Let's do it.
Let's do it, man.
Let's
Take
do
it
it,
easy,
man.
bro.
Take it easy,
Hey,
bro. Hey,
everybody
thank
that got on.
Thank you, guys.
Make sure you guys check out Joe.
Check Joe.
And
And
all his new stuff he's putting up, man. Awesome stuff.
man. Awesome stuff.
All right,
Good
dude.
work, Joe.
Take care, man.
All right. We good?
Yo,
Yo.
did
Good
you
shit. That was good.